Hello everyone, welcome to my Investing for Beginners video. This is basically the basics of investing, so of course if you're new, leave a comment below with any questions that you have and I may just make a video for you. So number one, what do you need to be able to invest? Well, first off, you need a brokerage account and you can get this pretty much anywhere. So you can go to your bank. If you're in Canada, you can go to TD, CIBC, Royal Bank, any of them, BMO, it doesn't matter, and you can sign up to get a trading account. Now, first off, when you sign up with a bank, generally it takes about a week to be able to get the account active. So keep in mind, if you wanted to invest in something that's coming onto the stock market, you might want to do that beforehand and give it enough time to be able to activate your account and then for you to get used to, of course, the trading platform, because each one is different. Now, of course, you can also go with different platforms like Wealthsimple, which will essentially give you free trades and you don't have to pay a commission. Now, while that seems like a good idea, they are still making money off of you, and in some cases, you may have a hard time getting in and out of stocks, depending on what's happening with the market. Essentially, the bigger the platform that you use, the easier chance you will to be able to get in. For example, with Wealthsimple, on the day where Sundial stock was going crazy, doing like hundreds of millions of trades before even the stock market opened, as soon as it opened, I could access to get into selling or buying the Sundial stock, which I was buying at the time, and I was also able to get it out of the stock at that right time when I wanted to within only a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, with Wealthsimple, it was blocking my ability to do so. So you really have to watch out for which trading platform you go with. The bigger one will allow you to have more freer choices of what's happening that day, because of course if there's hundreds of millions of trades with a smaller brokerage account, you are going to probably have issues of it freezing and things like that. Which now, let's get down to some stocks and let's check out what each stock kind of does. So there are stocks that you can buy. There is also ETFs that you can buy as well. Now the difference really quickly is an ETF will hold multiple stocks, while of course if you're buying a single stock, you're going to essentially just be buying one company. So the biggest difference is there is, of course, you've got an ETF that will hold, let's just say a random number of 40 companies, while with an individual stock, if you buy an individual stock, you're just owning one company. And when that comes down to, what that basically comes down to is a single stock is a little bit more riskier than holding 40 all at the same time. And that's why there's a benefit to ETFs. However, something to keep in mind with ETFs is the MER, the cost of holding that ETF, because of course, for example, this one is holding like 20, 30 different companies, and you have to pay them to essentially manage your money, and that's essentially how much it's going to cost. So for example, in this case, a $100 investment would then cost you about 85 cents per year, which isn't all that bad because you would really want this $100 to go up in value more than what the MER is. Meanwhile, with a stock, there is no MER, so you don't have to worry about paying to hold the company. Now, some companies and some ETFs will pay what's called a dividend. A dividend is essentially money that this company will distribute from their earnings, sometimes every month, sometimes every quarter, and sometimes once a year. It depends on the company. But for example, TD, they distribute their dividend every quarter. Now, going on with the whole dividend idea, the ex-dividend date is the day that you would want to get into the stock before they pay the dividend. So if you get into the stock and let's say you buy 10 shares of TD and you buy those 10 shares before July 8th, you will get a quarter of that dividend on the actual dividend date. Meanwhile, if you purchased that stock July 9th, you would not get your dividend, not this quarter, but you would have to wait a whole another 3 months to get the dividend. So if you're investing for the dividend, definitely pay attention to the ex-dividend date. And most companies, from my experience, will have the record date the same day as the ex-dividend date, but make sure you really check that out with the individual companies as well. Sometimes they'll have the record date a day or two after the ex-dividend date, so also pay attention to that. Always want to do your research before you invest into a company. Earnings dates are also a good really indicator on what's happening, because then you can also play, do you think that this company is going to be meeting their expectations or beating their expectations? Now, not always if a company beats their expectations that the stock will go up. Sometimes if they beat expectations, the stock goes down. And there's different reasons for that, but that's for another video. A PE ratio is also a very good indicator on the stock. So for example, TD's PE ratio at the time of recording this video is 11.25. Now, this doesn't mean a heck of a lot when it comes to growth stocks, but if you're looking at an established company like TD, you would want to then compare that PE ratio to other Canadian banks, and if this one seems to be the cheapest by being the lowest number, then sometimes there may be a growth opportunity with that bank. And TD right now with 11.25 is one of the cheaper Canadian banks right now. Volume is another indicator as to what's going on. So volume is important, not necessarily to see how popular the stock is, but also how easy it is to buy and sell that stock. Because of course, anytime you want to buy a stock, somebody has to be selling it. And when that happens, you want to see the volume. So if you are buying a stock, let's say it's a very small company and it's only getting maybe 1,500 shares traded every single day, and yet you go in and you want to buy 1,500 shares, it's going to take you a heck of a long time to get those shares. Also, if there's 1,500 shares, let's say, being traded a day, and you want to sell 1,500 shares, it's going to take you a heck of a long time to sell that stock. Meanwhile, if it's like TD, for example, that average volume is 5.2 million shares traded every single day, you're now looking at a very easy chance of getting in and out, because I really doubt that you're going to be spending probably 2.5 million shares times $87 if you're watching this video. But if you have $160 million, congrats on you, good job. Reading a chart is also very important. So of course, a lot of people, if they're new, may look at this and say, oh, that is scary. I will not buy this company and they will not buy it here. Well, what happened during this time? Well, of course, right now, it's going huge. It's absolutely climbing to insanity. And you may be thinking, well, now it's time to buy. Well, there may be a pullback. Who knows? There was, as we can see, a double top that formed. There may be some downside risk to this. There's ways of reading the charts, and of course that's not for this video. It's not a beginner subject, but it's still a good thing to learn. And if you're investing for the dividend, it's also good to see the past dividends, because if they're lowering dividends, it's not generally a good company to really invest in. Not in most cases anyways, but I'll get to that a bit later. As we can see here, there's a pretty solid growth of dividend. Right now, however, the Canadian banks cannot raise their dividend because of COVID, so of course that is now freezing the dividend. However, they are still paying it. You also want to see if they are meeting or beating expectations every single quarter, and you want to see their past history of growth. Now, of course, COVID hit 2020, so of course a lot of companies are going to have lesser numbers. However, what you really want to see is this. This is a really good indicator, to me anyways. So for example, TD, 2019 was a great year. However, COVID hit in 2020. That was not a great year. However, 2020's numbers equaled 2018's numbers when it comes to revenue. However, even though they made roughly the same amount of money, check out their earnings. They actually made more money than they did even the previous year where they had more revenue, and yet there's not more people talking about bank stocks like this, because this looks very promising into the future. If a company has figured out how to make more money on less revenue, that is a very good company in the future to invest in. Now, a company that did cut their dividend totally is Carnival, and you're probably wondering why they're up if they're essentially not even making money right now. But look where they came from. Is this an indicator as to where this stock price is going to go? Well, I'm here to say potentially it is. So before they cut their dividend, they were raising their dividends every couple of years. That looks promising. They were doing really well on revenue, and they were doing really good on earnings until 2020. Now, this may be scary for most people, but remember, this company could not operate because of COVID. If they can go back to this type of revenue, and they're going to have better earnings because they've figured out probably how to run a company with less money because of this, then this will be potentially a good growth story. There's also a lot of people looking to get the heck out of their house because they've all been locked in. So travel stocks may be a potential good investment, but it all comes down to your risk, your risk tolerance. You can invest in blue chips like TD, or you can go a little bit risky like in Carnival, and it really comes down to your age. Carnival has a few different points to it, and I've broken down that stock before on this channel, so I'm not about to do that in this video. However, always look at what your risk is. If you can invest and say, well, I can lose half of that money and I'm still okay, then you can go a bit riskier. But if you can say, I only have $1,000 to my name and I want to grow this money, but I might have to pay rent next week if I don't get paid, if I lose my job, then you might want to go a little bit more safer than riskier, because at that point, you will need that money potentially. The money that you don't necessarily need right away, you can go riskier. So for myself right now, I go 90% safe and 10% riskier. I've got Sundial, I've got Tesla, to me that's riskier. I've got Carnival because that's a riskier stock, that's part of that 10%. So that's just part of the beginning lesson, I would say, is to really see what your risk tolerance is. And then also look at some of the I guess benefits of holding individual companies that you might like. So for example, I go traveling a lot. I like Carnival Cruise Lines. Guess what? If you have 100 shares of Carnival Cruise Lines, you get on board ship credits as long as you can prove to them before the cruise that you own shares of Carnival. And you will get, depending on the length of the cruise, upwards of, I think it's a little over 150 or 250 depending on the length of the cruise, to buy stuff on board. And that's free money that is not taxed and is essentially just a dividend that's not taxed, and you're going to be buying stuff on the cruise ship anyways. So that is why I personally hold Carnival. So you always have to look at, hey, I use Apple a lot. Is there any shareholder benefits there? I use Microsoft. Is there any shareholder benefits? Now, there isn't for those two companies, but these are also things that you could look at too. There was also one marijuana stock, I can't remember which one it was, but they got in trouble because of this, but their dividend was a tax-free dividend of sending you weed. That got stopped pretty much right away, and it was just a funny story, and I wish I could find it, but every trace of that has disappeared from the internet, it seems like. But going on to the marijuana, well, a trade, personally, I like to run it with HMMJ because they, of course, do pay a dividend, and this is my next lesson, which is some ETFs will do weird things. So always when you're investing into an ETF, understand the full thing about the ETF. So for example, this one, HMMJ, they pay a dividend, but no marijuana company pays a dividend hardly at all anyways. So why do they pay a dividend? It's because they lease out the shares that they have to people who are shorting the stock, which is essentially borrowing a stock to sell it to hopefully buy it back at a lower price. And they're leasing out those stocks that they own for people to do that. Now, with that, you get an interest, you get paid interest from those people who are loaning those shares, and that's how that ETF can pay you a dividend. It's kind of a weird way to really work an ETF. There's other ETFs that will do like a put strategy, which is an option strategy, a call strategy, like a covered call, things like that. So really weird things in some ETFs. So definitely before you randomly invest into an ETF, understand that ETF fully if you're holding just the stocks or if it's doing something different so to get you maybe a higher dividend. And then there's also ETFs like ZSP, which has a very low MER of 0.09, which is basically nothing. And the reason why this is nice is because it's an index fund. Anytime you see index funds, so for example, this one is the S&P 500 index, it's essentially holding all of the stocks in that index, and usually at the same percentage levels. I know that this was a long video and pretty well in depth. I hope that I haven't confused you totally. Hit that like button and subscribe. Go check out all of the books that I like down in the description below, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Comment below as well if you have any questions.